All right, no, I can't do that. I gotta. Oh, there you go. Yeah. We were waiting so long to go live that I literally went live and forgot to start to run the intro. Good morning, everybody, and Good Friday. Happy Good Friday to everyone who celebrates. Welcome to Breakfast with Boom. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and as you can tell by my very salty thumbnail for today's show, we have a lot to get into. Obviously, every time, folks, we try and get away from ABK, it pulls us right back in. And thanks to the CMA, we have a lot to get into because Sony's out there making some claims. And, you know, it's funny. Last year, gentlemen, before we get into the intros, Sony was applauding the CMA's phase one findings. In fact, they were up until a couple of weeks ago were applauding and congratulating the CMA for looking out for number one, which is them. And it turns out, folks, that you know what? The evidence and the numbers cannot be argued. Sony is not going to be hurt by this deal. In fact, as we all saw for many, many months, I'd say over like 14 or 15 months, Dave, it has been Sony crying and the only one crying. And obviously, when they were moved off of the board, and the CMA has confirmed that their findings dictated that not only is there no reason for a foreclosure strategy for Microsoft, that even if they wanted to hold content back, or let's say, for instance, release Call of Duty first on Xbox, it still wouldn't hurt Sony's big and bottom line. But Sony responded. We're going to get into everything they had to say. And I got to shout out, a lot of people have been, out here on these Twitter streets, post up FOS patents, Tom Warren of The Verge, Idle Sloth, the robot. I mean, no, I forgot. He's not a robot. I'm sorry. He's a human being out there putting out all of this information. So we as podcasters and community members can digest it. Idle Sloth, I'm just messing with you. I know you're real. I've talked to you. But let's get into the introductions now. Right now, it's just four of us. The link has been sent out to a few pretty voicious individuals in the community. I don't want to say who they are because some of them are not sure if they're going to be here or get a chance to jump in, drop their bars, and bounce. But if they pop in here, then we'll make the announcement. But Web Dave, good morning, brother. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, Boom. Thank you so much for having me on today, man. I'm so excited to be here. And oh man, like you said, salt cup of tears.
Indeed, I'm drinking the salty tears right now, and it's quite delicious actually. But we have a lot to get. We have a lot to break down. We already have 200 people here, which is amazing. We're only 3 minutes into the show. I saw a lot of new names, and of course, I want to welcome everybody here. If you have been on to the show before, I go out of my way to welcome everyone individually. It's just my thing. I hope I can do that today, but I'm going to certainly give it the old college effort. But I do want to welcome everyone, especially if you're new. Please consider subscribing. We have seen some pretty good numbers in the last couple of weeks. We have crossed 12K, and now we're on the march to 13. And hopefully by the end of 2023, we'll hit 15K. That's the goal for us. But Dreadpool, good morning, brother. How you feeling? Lot of news, even outside of gaming. You got the Evil Dead Rise getting incredible reviews. You have Ahsoka being announced. You have a new Star Wars with Daisy Ridley. The Mario movie's out. It's unbelievable how much news. But we have a lot to get into with the ABK stuff. And Sony, when you say P for PlayStation, it really should mean P for pathetic, because that's how they're acting. Talk about it, brother. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. What's going on? I missed you guys last week, but I was in the chat for a little bit while I was running around.
You sure were.
Oh, man. Great show last week, by the way. And we're going to have a great show again this week. Love to see everybody. And you're right. There's so many new people in here. Welcome in. And I can't wait to talk about it. I mean, I've had a blast all week. I've just been 50-something hours of work in a matter of 4 days, and then
Nice.
the next 4 days was just nothing but conventions, and then I only had one night to sleep, and then early morning start back up with regular work until this morning. So I am exhausted.
You are running on fumes, brother.
Yeah, I and that was the thing. I tried getting some of the videos out. All I got was my shorts out there, trying to keep up with the timing of everything. And oh man, it's just the internet out there where I was staying was so poor. It took me 3 days to
Oh,
first day
wow.
video. So once I got home, it was just like basically set it up, start uploading, go to sleep, wake up, check, make sure everything went through or not, and then kind of make a correction, and then go out to work. And it's been hectic, but the news dropping down. I mean, who's not a Star Wars fan here? I mean, Accolade, the Skeleton Crew, all these announcements that Disney Plus just let out for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Just amazing. I'm excited for all this.
And we're not even at May the 4th yet. Could you imagine?
No, exactly. And that's the surprising part. It's like, this is awesome. You'd expect something like this around that time. So it's nice to see that, they're not holding back anything, and they're going to actually push it out there and let you know. And then obviously May the 4th, they'll probably give us some other insider little tidbits that they didn't reveal already. Maybe some more deep dives. And this is the same thing we want from Xbox and PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
Even Nintendo. We want this stuff to be whenever, it doesn't have to be a specific day to give us this information, but just let us know. And then when the big day comes around, get us all hyped up for that day, and then get us into the real meaty details. So I'm happy. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I can't stop talking.
No. Listen, it's a conversational podcast. That's what we want. But we're going to come back to you, brother, because we're going to be covering a couple of topics today. One of which is there's a hot rumor floating around Sony's PlayStation VR 2.0, folks. And guess what? Apparently, according to inside sources, and I have a couple of articles that I pulled who I'm going to quote, Sony has cut back production 20%. And there's also a story that I pulled where an analyst basically said, unless they do a price cut immediately, Sony's in trouble, which is not surprising because, listen, people like VR, but people don't like VR at $600. And also one that's not, I think Sony's biggest problem with PlayStation VR 2.0, it's not the tech. The tech is amazing. The problem is, again, it's the old Sony ideology. They are the old man in the room, right? When you talk about traditional, they cannot think outside of the box, being the PlayStation itself, whether that's the PlayStation 1 through 5. That is the only thing that matters to them. I can guarantee you that sales would have potentially doubled easily if this was able to be used on on not only a PlayStation 5 but a PC. And because it's locked down behind a $600 PS5, sales are going to be very minute. And to sales numbers, obviously, if Sony would have sold these things like gangbusters, they would have been out there touting how great it is. And they're not talking about it, and there's a reason for it. But Fuzzy Belvedere, what's going on, brother? How you feeling? Good morning and welcome.
Hey, how you guys doing? Glad to be here with you guys this morning. Man, just Sony, they're like a lost puppy now. I don't know what's going on with them at this point. They're talking about the VR. It's definitely going to need a price cut here soon. Even talking about a portable that I don't even know why they would want to try to make another piece of hardware if they can't get the VR to move. But we'll get into a lot of that stuff. But man, glad to be here with you guys. Let's do this.
And you know what? Speaking of that piece of hardware, which we talked about on Primetime Gaming this last Wednesday, another surprising piece of failure tech coming from SIE. And I say that because the rumor, and again, folks, these are rumors, take it with a grain of salt. It was only going to be used to stream directly from your PlayStation 5. That doesn't make any sense, but it's Sony. And there's no doubt that the picture that's floating around the interwebs, it does look nice. I'm not going to lie. Screen looks pretty big, so you're going to get a nice picture. But why have a device that only streams from your PlayStation 5? That doesn't make any sense. And you know how much, you know how expensive this thing is going to be? Well, I'm going to throw it out there. Nothing short of $400 plus. So I don't know. I mean, Sony seems to be in a bit of a pickle. And I'm not saying this for console war rhetoric. I'm saying it because look how many landmines just this week they have stepped on. It's just bonkers. So let's get into the crux of what we're going to talk about today. And it has to do with, again, a lot of people put a lot of things out there. I'm specifically going to use Tom Warren because he does put everything into a very digestible way of explaining what exactly happening. And he posted, which this had 1.2 million views, folks. That's how hot the ABK topic is on social media. And he says, Sony has responded to the CMA, siding with Microsoft over Call of Duty on PlayStation concerns. And it calls the CMA's reversal of its position surprising, unprecedented, and irrational. And I'm going to read directly from the Sony's posting. This is coming from the CMA directly. And it says this. The CMA's reversal of its position on its console theory of harm is surprising, unprecedented, and irrational. The provisional findings, the PFs, assess a significant body of evidence in the round to support its findings that Microsoft would have the ability and the incentive to withhold Activision content, and that this would substantially lessen competition by foreclosing PlayStation. In assessing this body of evidence, the PFs emphasized consistent with the CMA's duty to assess evidence. That is particularly important in this case to assess the merged entity's incentive to foreclose by considering all the available evidence in the round, rather than to focus on a single model. Now, basically what that means, folks, is the reversal by the CMA, who originally said, and again, folks, there's multiple phases and there's multiple, importance to each phase. Phase one is your varsity, your JV team, and they're the ones that were out there putting out emojis with blocks for defending Sony, probably because they're very young and they all grew up on PlayStation, which we've talked about this months and months ago, where I called foul. And then obviously it got to the varsity team, which, they handle things much different, more professional. And it turns out, folks, that guess what? Call of Duty, even if it was removed from PlayStation, which it's not going to be, would not hurt Sony. You know who would hurt? It hurt Microsoft. It hurt the brand of Call of Duty. And they actually acknowledged that in these findings. What I find hilarious, what I find pathetic is Sony or Jim Ryan actually pointing out to the forums, folks, not actual journalists, but pointing out to the forums that you should listen to them because they have their ear to the floor. I got to tell you something, folks. And I said this to the guys. They got a big laugh out of it. I'm going to show my age here. Anyone in the chat, around, anyone over 30, you might remember reading a magazine called Mad Magazine. And on the character or the character for that particular rag mag was Alfred E. Newman. And it was a parody magazine, right? You picked it up and usually it would be, them making fun of Batman or Judge Dredd or something. They always seem to grab the tail of the current zeitgeist. It's very famous for Spy versus Spy, which is what I like to read. But when you picked up one of these magazines, folks, you knew what you were going to get with it. Like, you knew that you were going to get a parody. You knew there was going to be some comedy. There might even be some raunchiness in there, right? That's what you expected. That's what you got. What I never expected in the history of covering games, and again, I'm not a journalist, folks. I'm only a podcaster. I'm only doing this 5 years. I never thought that I would ever see a deal this big. This obviously it's why I'm infatuated with the deal, because I've never seen anything this big in gaming, and I've been gaming since '78, folks. So I've seen a lot, and I've never seen anything quite like this. I'm excited as an Xbox fan, not because I'm going to be laughing at Sony players. I could care less. As a consumer, it benefits me because I get all these incredible IPs and all of this content in the service I already pay for. So it's a win-win for me. What I never thought I would ever see was a CEO and president in Jim Ryan act like a 5-year-old. He has been at the forefront of this, and I get it, folks. You know, he's the CEO. He's got to defend the PlayStation brand, rah, all that other bullshit. I hear you. But the amount of lies that have come out of Jim Ryan are to the point of nauseum. And this latest assault on now the CMA, who they were buddy with just last year, and up until a few months ago, they were arm in arm. As soon as the CMA was, schooled, or they were presented the numbers, which again, you want to argue my opinions, let's have a conversation. You can't argue the numbers. And the numbers indicate clearly that Sony is by far the market leader by leaps and bounds. To hear his rhetoric is like listening to a 5-year-old argue with another 5-year-old on the playground. And I'm actually embarrassed for Jim Ryan. I'm embarrassed for Sony because everything that they have used to try and use to block this deal has been complete BS. Dave, I want to go to you first on this because you're in the business of seeing the dollars and cents move back and forth.
Yep.
I understand that Jim Ryan is in a position where he has to defend SIE. But some of the things he has said, they're lies. There's a reason why he's called Lying Jim Ryan. But this latest release of information on Sony's opinion on it is just not to be believed. And I'm going to read one for you. This one is pretty. This one I want you to take by the teeth here because this is pretty ridiculous. And this is posted again by Tom Warren. And he's actually responding to a response from Sony. So I'm going to read the Sony's response first and then read Tom Warren's response second. He said, Sony says this, folks. This finding is unsubstantiated and inconsistent with the evidence. It appears to be based on speculation that the deterioration in Call of Duty would be modest, and as a result, that the CMA would expect only a fraction of gamers would switch to Xbox, and this comes Amendment Para 5.6. Yet it is difficult to conceive that of an industry where consumers are more attuned to quality and where quality affects purchasing decisions. And this is where it gets funny, folks. Call of Duty gamers are passionate, knowledgeable, and sophisticated. Gamers engage with each title in the franchise immediately after release and are keenly aware of the game's price and quality. So Tom Warren responds to that and says, I guess nobody at Sony ever used a headset in a Call of Duty lobby then. And then Paul Tassi actually responded, and he got a lot of smoke for this. I don't agree or disagree. It's his opinion. So you know what? You say it. You gotta accept what happens. He says, sorry, Sony, you lost me at Call of Duty gamers are passionate, knowledgeable, and sophisticated, end quote. Ouch. I'm not a Call of Duty player. I used to play back in the days on the 360. I'm just not a Call of Duty player. I'm more of a Halo player. But again, for Jim Ryan to say these things, it smells like desperation. I don't know what the chat thinks, but I really want to know what you have to say about this.
It's definitely desperation. I mean, people who play that game, Call of Duty, are no more intelligent or dense than anybody else. I mean, it's a gambit of people that play, and whether your IQ is high or low, that kind of thing doesn't matter.
Gamers are gamers, brother.
Exactly. And what he's doing is he's basically coddling anybody that plays Call of Duty and saying, how much respect he has for them and how he doesn't want to see the franchise go down, because of what of what Microsoft is trying to do, which is court destroy the franchise, right? No. But that's the way he's trying to come across, is that, it needs to either be with somebody else or with Sony, because clearly Sony, is the best place to play it, which is not true. But it's that's the thing, is Microsoft wants to make it to where it can be played more places. Sony wants it to be everybody to have it in their head that this is their property. They have the leg up. It's their exclusive, and it's not. It's just a matter of that's what they want to try and portray, and they continue to do that even through these rantings, because that's really all they are. They're just basically. I'm really surprised at some of the things that they said, for the simple fact that they're going to read this as well. They're going to see these, and they're going to think, man, why would I, why would, they can clearly see that they are made the correct decision in their second time through, when they came out and made the changes. It's clearly upsetting Sony. It's upsetting them because it's true and they know it, and they can't do anything about it. And now they're just throwing Hail Mary lobs, for several reasons. One is because they're trying to sway them back, which I don't believe that's going to happen now. I believe that this is pretty much going to be, we'll get the final results on the 12th. All the submissions will be done. And then I believe it's on the 28th, I think, or 26th, that the actual decision will be announced to everybody. And then we'll know for sure, what's going on. So hopefully, that'll put a cap in that part. But Jim probably, a lot of people have said this too, that this is his kind of, if the deal doesn't get blocked or they don't get something extremely good out of it, then he might be actually in trouble, with some of the upper echelon at Sony. Although, he is, quote unquote, no matter how bad it sounds, if he didn't try and stop the merger at any cost, he would be negligent in his job duties.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But it's the way he's going about it, and it's the way he's basically dragging the Sony Corporation through the mud to do it.
Yeah.
That you and me can look at it and go, dude, what? Why are you, there's a lot of ways you can say things, a lot of things you can do to present your case that are, but to be slanderous. I mean, to be honest, I mean, it's clearly, someone, I believe it was Hogue, made a comment that, and it may have been Luke. Sorry, I watch a lot of those guys. But they said that some of the wording, in his final statement, that that the reason they did that is so that they could try and have, I guess, grounds to make the appeal, which you were talking about. I can't think of the name of it now. You mentioned it when you first started talking. The act, or the you know what I'm talking about, after it's done, to have somebody can review it.
Oh, CAT. Yeah,
that's it.
CAT is above the CMA, and basically, if you got, first of all, yeah, it was Luke that actually made mention of what CAT does. Basically, it is a tribunal.
Okay.
And if someone doesn't agree with the CMA's decision, they can appeal to CAT. And that a lot of people have been talking, that's something that Sony might attempt to do, is try and go over the CMA's head. Here's the problem. And this was again, I don't have knowledge of this, folks. I have knowledge of it only because of Luke Steele.
Yep.
And Luke broke it down for me on a Primetime Gaming. And when we were talking about what if CMA does block it, what can Microsoft do, and would it help? And the way Luke Steele explained it live on the show, and this is going back a couple of months ago, was that yes, they can appeal it, but they can't change the decision. What CAT would ultimately do is look over the CMA's findings and say, hey, listen, on Article 5.6.1, you forgot to cross a T. You got to fix that. and the CMA would get sent back to the CMA, and the CMA ultimately, if this is what they believed, would then render the same decision. It happened with I believe it was something with Meta a couple of years ago, where they fought it with, they sent it to Cat sent it back, and CMA was like, that was our decision is still the same. So ultimately it's going to take a lot of time. Now, what was explained, folks, is that even if Sony attempted to appeal the CMA's decision, it would not stop the merger. It would just cost Sony millions and millions of dollars more, and a lot of more time to try and have a sit-down meeting with Cat, and Cat would, of course, then send it back to the CMA, who ultimately would just reapprove it as they did in the first time. So Microsoft wouldn't have had a chance with Cat. Sony is going to have an even lesser chance with Cat.
Right. And I'm feeling that if you were talking about, it cost them millions, well, they could probably take that out of Jim's golden parachute when he gets let go at Sony. I'm just saying.
Well, it's certainly possible. Yep. But look, again, I'm pulling everything that Tom Warren put out there again, so it's digestible for us as because again, there's a lot of information. It's only a 2-hour podcast, so we have to get everything out there. I want to go next to Fuzzy on this. Dreadpool, I'm going to come to you in a second. I have a specific question with Dreadpool because he works in a business where his company was acquired, and he has shared that with us all of these years. And he has he does have a good idea of the inner working. So I have a specific question for you, Dread, that I want to break down. But Fuzzy, I want to pull up a couple of paragraphs that were put out there. And again, this is all from the CMA documentation. And this is Sony's response. Sony had a 10-page response, and this is some of it. And this is where I smell the desperation in Jim Ryan and Sony Interactive Entertainment, because they make mention of this, Fuzzy Belvedere: conversations in forums, chat rooms, and public gaming sessions confirm that gamers are very conscious of the slightest changes in a game's performance. As the highly confidential figure below shows, details such as crashes, freezes, and glitches, as well as graphics and load times, have a significant impact on consumer satisfaction. They go on to say, any degradation of the price, performance, or quality of play on PlayStation, or any delays on release, would quickly harm SIE's reputation and cause a loss of engagement and of players. As SIE CEO Jim Ryan has explained to the CMA at the remedies hearings, if PlayStation received a degraded version of Call of Duty, it would, in Jim Ryan's words, seriously damage our reputation. Our gamers would desert our platform in droves, and network effects would exacerbate the problem. Our business would never recover. What a complete load. I mean, my God. Mind you, in a paragraph next, which I'm going to hand off to Dreadpool, he literally, and I say Jim Ryan literally says, once again, that not even their own first-party studios can make a game like Call of Duty. Now, I got to tell you, if I'm on and again, that's I'm saving that for Dreadpool, because I can't wait to get, if he was told, hey, you can't do your job, but the other guy can, well, how he's going to feel. We're going to get to that, but let's talk about Sony highlighting conversations in forums, chat rooms, and I don't know, folks, has anyone ever worn a headset in Call of Duty in a gaming session? I could tell you, I heard things worse there than when I wore a freaking uniform. That's how terrible it gets. And they're quoting that in this legal document. Wow. Please, let's talk about it.
Well, first of all, Jim must have forgot that they recently released The Last of Us Part 1 to a complete.
Did anyone see the Ellie doing the head spin thing? I thought that was a joke. That was ridiculous, but yeah.
Yeah, they're worried about I guess the bugs and glitches that could potentially come to Call of Duty. Yet they don't seem to be worried about when they release their own games on PC at this point. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, eventually they get around to fixing it, which that happens with almost every studio everywhere, third party or first party, regardless. I mean, Nintendo's probably about the only ones that really don't have as many issues, but then again, they're on a potato with a controller or Joy-Cons on it, so it's a little bit different story there. But yeah, the whole argument that all of a sudden this acquisition is going to make the game worse than what it was, considering that them as the market leader currently, the game is basically designed and optimized first for that platform. So until I guess the numbers, let's say, shift, it's probably going to remain that way. So they don't really have much to worry about in the short term. Long term, though, it could come down to the type of hardware that they have versus like what Xbox has, using something that's a little bit more in line with what PCs use, using RDNA 2 and stuff like that. But once again, Microsoft isn't going to want to, kiss away all that money that they're going to be making off of Sony. They're going to be now making that full 70% pot out of that game for each copy that's sold on PlayStation. And they're going to enjoy that, considering that maybe majority on their home platform is going to be through the subscription service, which, yeah, the subscription, the reoccurring funds and all that's going to be great. But getting, that 70% out of the $70 from, every PlayStation cat that buys the game is definitely going to be something that they're not going to try and jeopardize just to see if they can get a majority of people to switch consoles or switch platforms. I mean, all these things that Jim is saying is just as if they were the ones in Microsoft's seat. Like we've seen certain games that had questionable optimization for Xbox in comparison to PlayStation, whether it was like a PlayStation marketed game or because that particular developer realizes that PlayStation being the lead platform because of the amount of shipped consoles and whatnot. So be it, but it just seems funny to me. It's like, oh, we can't recover from our reputation being hurt on a bad port or something, but yet they just did that, and they did that with Horizon, Zero Dawn. They had to have the main studio Guerrilla go back and fix it. They've had similar issues with Days Gone when it came to PC. So
Last of
a
Us.
lot of it's projection, I guess, more so than anything. But yeah, we'll see how their business is, hurt in the long run. But I don't foresee it unless it's something that they do themselves. Like I'm just waiting for them to claim that they don't want to take the chance that Call of Duty is going to be a bad port and that they're going to block Call of Duty being on their platform or pull it from the store, kind of like they did with Cyberpunk or something like that, just to kind of I guess win a mini war, but it'll still hurt them in the end, I think, in the grand scheme of things. But that's all I got on that.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, the mere suggestion, see, and this is why it gets annoying, folks. Many of Sony's tactics to make you play on their system is out there for everyone. I'm not even going to bring up how they killed Sega. Sega kind of killed Sega because they kind of rushed the Saturn out, which I loved, by the way. I still actually have one, and I love the Dreamcast. Still my favorite console of all time. So, some of the things that Sony did that they are claiming Microsoft may potentially do is everything that they have done already, which is unbelievable to me. And it's, again, we can look back to last year's December release of Callisto Protocol for the Xbox version. How broken was the Xbox version? Achievements weren't working. Certain elements of graphical prowess were not there. They were going to be brought back in a patch. But who's looked really good and ran really good and all the trophies worked? I don't know, PlayStation. Why would that be, folks? Why did the PlayStation version work better? I don't know. Maybe because they sent 50 developers over to help finish the game and they had the marketing rights. I'm just saying. And you want to talk about quality? Well, you just said it. The Last of Us on PC was rushed. And you know what's crazy? A lot of terrible PlayStation people in the community were attacking the team that did the second run of Killer Instinct. What the hell was their name? Who worked on the game? Yeah, they worked on they helped with the game, but the major work on the game was done by Naughty Dog. So ultimately, what this does is it's a black eye for Naughty Dog because they put out this horrendous port, probably trying to still garner sales from the show, which the show was absolutely fantastic from episode 1 to episode 9. It was just phenomenal. But they tried to do a cash grab, and that cash grab ultimately cost them because now it is one of the worst PC ports in I've seen people say history. I don't know. I couldn't tell you because I don't play on PC, so I can't say if it's that bad of a port or not. But I know that it's pretty terrible. But I want to move this along to Dreadpool because one of the first responses from Sony was that Call of Duty is so special and that it's such a magnanimous IP that their own studios could not make something so special, right? And that, to me, is a bit shocking. Like, I mean, that's a kick to the balls if you're on one of Sony's payrolls. But then again, he mentions it again in this, where, the importance of Call of Duty and how I'm trying to find the actual phrases. So while you talk about it, I'm going to see if I can find it because I know that they make mention of multiple studios making this magnificent game that is so important to Sony, and that their own studios cannot compete with the kind of quality because there are so many other studios that combine talents to make this special Call of Duty. I mean, like from a worker's point of view, I mean, I know he's going to say anything he can, but I don't think he sent a memo and say, "Hey guys, I'm going to throw you under the bus." I don't really mean it. I mean, if you are on Sony's payroll, if you're working for Naughty Dog, you're working for Insomniac Games, and you're like, "Are you kidding me, Jim? Like, as much great work as we have done already for the brand for decades, this is how you do me? That we can't compete with the Call of Duty?" Because ultimately, that's what's going to happen, folks, right? Like, someone in SIE, someone at PlayStation is going to raise their hand and say, "Hey, listen, I have a great idea for a new SOCOM. I think it could give Call of Duty a run for its money, and it would be a great gas game." Or maybe someone has done that already. Maybe they're working on a SOCOM right now as we speak, and they just haven't said anything because obviously they're trying to limp into court with the bandage over the head and the crutches and the fake broken arm. I don't know. From a worker's point of view, how demoralizing is this, Dread?
Well, let's see. It's demoralizing just to hear it. I couldn't imagine being a worker hearing that your excellent work isn't good enough anymore. And you mentioned games as a service. You realize that they are currently working on 10 games as a service. They're currently in the works. Nothing's been announced as to what they are. So they could be in a couple years in the making. It's just they don't want to advertise that. It's smart of them not to advertise it, other than the fact that they're working on these games, because these games, if you think about it, games now don't come out right away like they used to. The code is no longer 200 megabytes, no longer 6 gigs. You're talking about 120 gigs on average for some of these games. You're looking at the new Star Wars, where single player is over 150 gigs. So when you're looking at that, it's like, the amount of code that they're putting in there, the amount of work that an employee is putting in, working as a team, right? So you're looking at what you do as one person, in either coding, the artistic work, anything that just even basic storytelling. So you're telling me that my stuff's not good enough? That doesn't make sense, and it's just funny how the narrative has been changing. We're talking about BSVR. We're talking about the console, the little handheld, you know, everything's going whichever way, but nothing saying, hey, you know what, Last of Us, the best damn game out there. You know, we got the series that just came out. We want to emphasize on that, and what do? They fail every single. It's like they pushed it out just to get it out there. Remember who plays old games? I don't know. But apparently Sony's throwing Hail Marys out there trying to get a game out there that's already in existence. Why not just go ahead and do something with the existing game that's out there and get it to be, I don't know, more efficient, something like that. I mean, their sales already increased as it was. So why was PC pushed back so far and then all of a sudden pushed forward? You know, Craig never looked better. You know, if you don't understand the reference, I'm talking about Craig from Halo. You know, he never looked better on Last of Us than these guys. It's just demoralizing when you look at it. You know, you think that COD is ruining your reputation? Is damaging your reputation? I don't know. Maybe your CEO is damaging your reputation. You know what I mean? You're crying wolf to all of this. So what's going to happen here? What's going to happen? Oh, by the way, do you realize that Callisto Protocol still does not have the ray tracing on the mirrors? I went back. It took me about 6 or 7 updates before I can actually pass a certain level that I was glitched out at.
And that's the Xbox version, correct?
And that's the Xbox version, yes.
There you go. There you go, folks.
And I went back to the mirror because I said, "Oh, let me go see if they've updated this." Nope, ray tracing still not there for the mirrors. So yet again, you know, who's crying wolf and who's doing what? We already know. You know, Jim Ryan's just fabricating everything, making employees look bad. Not only that, when they're, you know, yet again, when they're pushing games out so fast that they haven't had a chance to I don't know. I mean, who thought that Ellie was going to be breakdancing in you know, in that shot there?
I thought it was fake. I thought it was mocked. Honestly,
that's what I thought too. I seriously did not, you know, I would not put it past them to do something like that, you know, to fake something, because there are those fanboys out there that are doing this.
Oh, every platform has them. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying these fanboys. That's the problem. It's not the ponies. It's not the Xbox. It's these stupid fanboys that take stuff and they make something out of it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, look at this, and it's like, no, you purposely manipulated this.
Yeah,
this is a glitch. I look at it as like, okay, it happens. It's not game breaking. You just turn it off, you restart it, and you go back again. Not game breaking, you know. But when you have something like that, and you're saying, oh, we're afraid that Xbox is going to destroy us because our studios cannot handle this. Our studios, hello, who's the number one here? Who's number one? Who's number one at first person games? You know, then they wonder why, you know, nobody gets on the headset. I'm sure you guys have seen some parties. I've seen the people in the chat saying, oh, you haven't been to my party when we play. And it's like, yeah, I've tried to do community game nights, and I've told people, hey, you know, just remember I'm streaming. If you guys wouldn't mind, just kind of like, you know, and people are
PG-13,
yeah.
brother. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm at least saying, okay, you know, I don't mind if it's like rated R, but like, let's keep it, you know, not you know, let's keep the rating somewhere into the R. You know, they're going above that.
Triple X.
Yeah, beyond NC-17. It's like, come on now. And, you know, and I've had to like shut it down a couple of times because of that. And it's like, okay, well, here we go. Here's this, here's that. But as an employee, we're not good enough. We're not good enough.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I thought they were pushing out bangers. They were studios that never falter, just like studios that who plays old games. Well, we just remake games, you know, and they've been doing great at remaking the games up until the PC ports. And it's like, why would you do that? You know, there are people that just simply do not want a PlayStation, but they want to play these games, and they will play it on PC. They've said it before, just like the opposite. Oh, I don't need to buy an Xbox. I'll just play it on my PC. When you know damn well they don't have that kind of PC, but it's just talk from them. But at the same time, there are people that truly do want to play certain games. It doesn't matter if it's Xbox or PlayStation. They want to play these games, but you're downplaying everything, and then you push out crap. And it make who's really destroying your reputation? Between the talk, between the physical devices that's supposedly out there or not coming out there because of we're talking about PSVR and the handheld that's supposedly all the stuff that they've done, and we grew up playing PlayStation since day one, right? Playing Dreamcast, playing Nintendo. It's like, all right, we're going to play Nintendo 64 over here. We're going to do this game here over on the PlayStation. We're going to do this other game on Dreamcast. And that's what it was. You just played where you could. And now it's beyond that, but yet as a developer, as a creator of the game, or the artist or any of that stuff, my stuff's no good. Right? Is that what you're saying? We need to have somebody else out there that makes better than we do? And sorry, how many times have people played Call of Duty and complained about Call of Duty? I know a lot more people have complained about Battlefield, but at the same time, there are every year Call of Duty sucks because of this item, and it's like, why didn't they do this? And we know why. They have 3 different studios every year, so that way they can do a yearly push, and get that money grab. But why? Why do we blaming this one company not being there that is going to kill us? And it's all talk. That's the worst part. Everybody knows it's just talk. He's just grasping for straws. Anything he can do. Why can't you go, I don't know, to the lawyers? Why can't you go to the marketing people and figure out the right, especially with the lawyers, right? Figure out the right verbiage to say, hey, look, Call of Duty is very important to us. We make a lot of money off of it. We just in our sphere of the world with our awesome developers, to make something like that will take us some time before we can be competitive in that. You know what I mean? There's certain ways to say stuff, and they never do that. They throw everybody else under the bus, or at least Jim does. It's not Jim too. Jim's just a puppet. And that's the worst part. We know he's a puppet. He's a highly paid puppet because his overlords are actually telling him what they want. This is how we do this. This is how it's going to be. And he's a yes man, and he makes that money for them. So, of course, that's why he got his position, and now he's fighting for his life. He's fighting for Sony's life. And it's like, why? It's not really that big of a deal. Push it and make better. You are the leader, right? Are they not the leader? Wait, depends on how the metric is, right? You take out this one little spot out of the Excel file, and now they're trash. They're dying. Oh my God, the cats and dogs making out. The sky's falling. Come on now, and that's the and you go back to the worker. Where are they left? Am I out of a job? Am I here? Am I going to get shut down? How many studios have they shut down that they bought?
A lot.
So with all that talk, and then you go back, what do you think they're going to be doing? They're going to be worried. Yes, I'm Sony Blue all the way through blood. Blood in. My blood is Sony Blue. I forgot how they say it, but anyway, not blue blood, but that's cops. But I bleed blue. That's it. So if I bleed blue because of PlayStation, and they're gonna do away with my job because we're not here, that doesn't do any good. They should be out there promoting how good they are, and yet they still need this game. They still need to do this. Yet again, that's something that if it was me, I would be doing the same thing, but I would be doing it better, and I would have lawyers speaking for me. I would have lawyers figuring out to make sure I say the correct information.
He's not a good speaker. If you ever hear Jim Ryan talk, he's not a good speaker. He's a terrible speaker.
He is not. You ever notice how Phil, when they ask him questions, he stops and thinks about it because he's like, I know people.
He's a thinker. Right.
People will take this out of context, and they have with Phil too. You know, I'm not saying Phil's a perfect speaker, but
Well, we
he's
all make
also,
mistakes, dude.
yeah,
That's
we all
just
do.
life.
But certain things have been taken out of context, and
Yeah.
this is where we're at too. He's not allowing it to be taken out of context because he's saying it the way it is, and it's supposed to, I don't know, being a little bit more PR in his speak and more methodical on what they say. It's not a good look for any of them, and that's the worst part. They're contradicting everything. He's actually contradicting everything they say.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I want to semi-pivot over to a tweet from FOSS Patents, who I'm hoping at some point is either listening to this, because I've been talking with him on Twitter. I'm trying to get a one-on-one with the guy. He is incredibly brilliant. If you have, hear him, because he was on Dustin Legary's show. I believe he was on the Xbox 2 podcast as well. I'm pretty sure of it, right? With Randon and Jez. I'm almost positive. Maybe I'm making them. I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to get a one-on-one with him. 10, 15 minutes. I don't know if he would do it live. If not, we would try and do like pre-record, and I just put it out there for everyone to see, because I have a bunch of questions that I've already written down regarding this deal. When you say the word two-faced, for me, covering this ABK shenanigans, it has been Jim Ryan. And he and FOSS Patents put out a tweet, folks. Well, I'm pulling up the tweet right now. And his Florian Muller, FOSS Patents, on Twitter. You should follow him for sure, especially if you are intrigued in this deal. And he simply wrote, Sony and its reactions to the CMA's findings on Microsoft, Activision Blizzard, how it started and how it's going. Well, how it started was, folks, October 28th, 2022, last year, right? Not too long ago. Sony said this in a statement. Sony agrees with the decisions, with the CMA's decisions and findings. It believes strongly that this transaction will harm competition, industry participants, innovation, and consumers. That's coming directly from Jim Ryan and Sony. March 31st, 2023. This is where how it's going. The CMA's reversal of its position on its console theory of harm is surprising, unprecedented, and irrational, the provisional findings assessed. I mean, look, the bottom line, folks, is, and this is the question I have for the chat, and this is the question, of course, I have for the panel. There is something to be said about Lulu Chang, who about a month ago now, perhaps maybe 3 weeks, closer to a month, put out a bombastic tweet that I think sunk Sony's battleship, if you will, in one fell swoop. And that was the quote from Jim Ryan in these behind closed door meetings. I don't care about a Call of Duty. I don't care about a new Call of Duty deal. I care about blocking your merger, or I only want to block your merger. And I kind of wonder, and I thought about this. I said, Dave, you and I were talking about this. You actually have something, that you were going to play when I said this. When I did say to you, if you're a regulator, and I don't care what country you're from or what regulation board you're on, if someone in the room that you're in actually allows their inside voice to become their outside voice, and something like that is said, I don't care about a new Call of Duty deal. I just want to block your merger. You got to look at your other people, right? You got to be like, that guy. There you go. Thank you. I mean, like, this is supposed to be a CEO and a president, and I understand he's defending his brand. My question to you, Dave, is yes, the numbers, which cannot be argued, numbers that have come out of the CMA's provisional findings, which we'll know on the 26th of this month what their ultimate decision will be, has that the theory of harm has now been proved wrong. There is no theory of harm for the merger to go through. So I understand that the numbers have a huge part in this because you can't argue numbers. Like I told you, but guys and gals before, you have a different opinion than Boom. That's awesome. Let's have a conversation and let's be adult about it. But you really can't argue the numbers. But I have a question for you, and I sat here and I wondered as everyone is talking, as great as the evidence that Microsoft has presented in the numbers, do you think this one solidary tweet from Lulu Chang, who is obviously the CCO of Activision and Blizzard, did irreparable damage to Jim Ryan's reputation and their ultimate argument for this deal to be blocked?
Yeah, I mean, it's well, it was kind of like the peek behind the curtain, taking a look at the Wizard of Oz, as it were. And yeah, it wasn't really a good look for them, but it was probably the most honest thing that they could have said, and they haven't ever gone back and disputed those comments. So you pretty much know from at this point that he really did say it. And she probably has proof. There's probably I'm sure there's whether it's a stenographer or a notes from the meeting or a recording that because most meetings they do record those things because they need to. And I'm sure it's really out there that he actually said that. So it makes it really, it was definitely eye opening. And it was kind of almost a little after that is when the CMA had their reversal. If we put up the timelines, it was kind of like, and I don't think it was the cause, but I think it was definitely the, okay, we've been, they've been trying to bamboozle us because they don't want the deal to go through. They're not playing ball. They're not like, hey, this is what it would take to get us through the door. They're really trying to stop that at all cost. And I mean, and I say I get why, because if it really is and if it is the product that really makes them a lot of money, and we all know that it does, it makes them bank. And I don't necessarily believe that they use that money to to put back in some of their they do that for the shareholders and a lot of things, to keep them going, keep them solvent. But they're not going to be going into the poorhouse instantly. It's not happening. Even if Call of Duty was completely pulled from their service, which it won't be, they would still have enough product, to be competitive. But the thing is, they aren't. The only thing is there's two big things that they're absolutely terrified of. One is that it's going into Game Pass, and because it's going into Game Pass, that means that there is their leverage for every for the consumer to that I've got to buy it on Sony, and I really need to to spend that money to get it on there to play with my friends, because that's the only place to play it according to their all the special bonuses and things like that they give out, exclusive content that goes along with it that Sony ties up. But once that is pulled from them, which it'll be an even playing field, that terrifies them because it's good for them now. They like it good. And not only are they the leader, they're extremely high as a leader. So in the industry. So that's really what terrifies them. You can tell. And if it's if it's available to them to try and do whatever they can to stop it, they want to. The look on Jim personally looks bad, and to be honest, it could be not necessarily another nail in the coffin, but it definitely could be, that's something that Sony Corporation, for their look as a professional, big huge conglomerate business, didn't need that. It's a black eye on them. It clearly is. The last thing I'll say on this is that Hargeet is in the chat, And he said if you send him a link,
I just sent him the
here's a
link.
few
I
minutes.
literally just
Cool.
saw it.
Good
Hargeet,
deal.
I just sent you the link, brother. Go check your email and join us if you can.
Yeah, he
That
said
would
he
be,
has a
that'd
few
be pretty
minutes, so
dope to
that'd
get
be
in
awesome.
there. Yeah, I mean, listen, really good stuff. Again, I find it embarrassing that some of the rhetoric that has gone on, not only by suggesting that Microsoft would conduct themselves in this way. And again, folks, I like to use the bully comparison. And I really do think, because I've said this before, and people have clowned me on, and that's fine. You can laugh at it. I've said this, and I don't think I'm wrong in saying this. I think Sony is the industry bully.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Some of their tactics where you've heard.
Can
I mean, here's a perfect example of what I'm saying, folks. There were developers that commented on Sony's behavior to the CMA when they were asked, whether it be a publisher or developer, whoever, and they asked to remain anonymous because of the fear. Now, they didn't say this. I'm just assuming. And of course, when you assume, you know what happens, right? So I could be 1,000% wrong, but Sony has been known to blacklist,
Yes.
Different entities, whether that be a publisher, whether that be a journalist, or his or her company.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why everyone plays ball with Sony, because they're the market leader, and quite frankly, they're a bunch of bullies.
Don't give them a good review. They're gonna pull games from you to review in the future. They've clearly done that to people.
Oh, there's Hargeet. He's smiling, so he has a lot to say. Hargeet, hey, what's up, brother? Good morning. How you feeling?
Morning, Hargeet.
Good morning.
More ridiculousness to get into.
Of course.
Thanks for joining us, Hargeet.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us, brother. Listen, Hargeet, I'm going to come to you next because you didn't get a chance to talk about why I'm calling SIE pathetic after this. And I think it is. I think ultimately it's a pathetic 5-year-old response that you would hear in a schoolyard of arguing whether Sonic is better than Mario or Mario is better than Sonic. That's what this equates to. But I have to catch up on the super chats. There's been quite a few of them, and I cannot thank everyone enough for the outstanding generosity. The first one of the day comes from a very good friend of the program, Tim the Sorcerer, who's been a channel member for 2 months. Tim, good morning, brother, and thank you. Well, actually, it's good afternoon by you. It's actually late in the afternoon. Good afternoon. He drops a £2 super chat and says, well, happy Easter, everyone, and have a good show. Boom. Happy Easter to you and yours as well, and thank you for the well wishes. Tom from Tanami drops a very generous $5 super chat. Good morning, Tom, and how you feeling? He says, Jim to the CMA, Chris Farley voice. If the deal goes through, I'm going to be living in a van down by the river.
Going to be living in a van down by the river.
That's great. And that's really good, dude. I got to tell you, that's a really good impression. I love it.
Thanks.
Dan, the man Cunningham. Dan, how the hell are you, brother? Thanks so much for the generosity. He drops a $5 super chat and says, damn you, Boom. Now you've got me moving your feed to my phone so I can play Vampire Survivor while I listen to Breakfast with Boom. Thanks a lot. Yeah, isn't that game so god? I haven't played it in about 2 months. So this is older footage. But man, I'm afraid to get into it because I'm addicted to Resident Evil 4, and I got to get back to Dead Space. I got to finish Hogwarts. I got to finish Hi-Fi Rush. I'm at the last boss. It's too many games, folks. That's my problem. Not enough time. I stream too much. I think that's my problem. Dreadful Sean drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, one reason they're being this desperate could be because Sony only gets 20% of Call of Duty sales for the next 2 years because of the current deal in place. Microsoft will be getting 80% after the deal closes. That's a really good point. And that's the other thing that's a bit of a conundrum because, they called it the Sony discount. It's actually the Activision discount. Apparently there's a deal in place with Activision proper right now where a standard deal for your publishers or developers to put something on someone's platform is 70-30. And I don't know if it was worked into the contract that Sony would give up 10%, but have all these extra bonuses that were locked in as PlayStation exclusives. Now, I'm only assuming that's what it was. Sony only gets 20%. With this deal or the new 10-year deal, Sony would actually get a raise. They'd move back up to 30%, which is, again, it's a little bit crazy why they won't sign a 10-year deal. They're going to get more money. It's just that Microsoft is going to be publishing the game. And when you put on your Call of Duty on your PlayStation, it's going to say Microsoft Studios because that's what it is. Great point, Dreadful. Brett Bingham, generous friend of the program, drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, think Jim is trying to push the PlayStation consumer narrative? ? If he makes Microsoft look like the bad guy, their PlayStation players might stop buying Call of Duty out of spite. There is going to be, I'm telling you right now, folks, I can see these stories being posted left, right. Push Square is going to put it out there. I hope VGC does not stoop this low. We're going to see a bunch of these narratives. Once this deal is done, I am telling you right freaking now, you're going to see sales drop 3%. Oh, the PlayStation players, they're on revolt. I'm telling you, remember this podcast, someone clip this and come back to me with the same clip when this deal gets done and the next Call of Duty comes out. I'm telling you, that is going to happen.
Well, you know what else is going to happen is they're going to be like, Call of Duty's dead to me, and they're going to be breaking the disc. They're going to be
breaking the disc, maybe breaking an Xbox,
console. Anything for that limelight that they're going to try to get. And it's like, please.
Hold on a sec. I'm going to take another sip of the tears. Hold on a sec.
Oh, there we go.
Very tasty. And you can get one of these cups too on Teespring right now. That's my shill. That's my shill of the day, folks.
Where's that link? I don't see that link out there for you.
I will drop the link momentarily. I keep forgetting. I swear, there's so much to do as a host that I forget to push my own stuff. It's ridiculous. It's fine. We already sold 40 pieces, which I cannot believe people actually bought this stuff. I mean, I paid a lot of money for the artwork, so it's not like I drew it. Like, I sketched it, threw it up there because you don't want me to draw. Brett Brigham drops an additional $5 super chat and says, if he succeeds, Jim doesn't have to pay an arm and a leg for Call of Duty for the next 10 years because he could refuse to sign the deal if offered. Yeah, I'm still like baffled. Everyone signs a deal, a 10-year deal. And what the deal does, folks, ultimately, and I think this is really where you get into the bread and butter of it, is that it's legally binding. So if Microsoft would break the contract, there would be ramifications, folks, monetarily, it would cost them a lot of money. It's not going to happen, folks. They're going to make the PlayStation version as good as they can and exactly what the PlayStation 5 could run it. They're not going to pull a Sony. See, this is where the oxymoron conversation comes in. Sony, you're pointing the finger, and yet you're sending broken versions of a game like Callisto Protocol over to Xbox, and you're okay with that. See, that's the problem. Jason Redman in the chat drops a very generous $2 super chat, and thank you for joining us, Jason. Good morning. He says, hi, Dreadpool. Thanks for seeing me. Thank you for that, Dreadpool. Super appreciate that. Highlander 001, generous friend of the program, drops a $10 super chat and says, the House Judiciary Committees has set an April 10th deadline for chair of the Federal Trade Commission to hand over documents related to the FTC's approach to company mergers and acquisitions. Whoa, I guess that's breaking because I did not see that this morning. That is a big deal. I can comment a little bit on it, but I have to be able to read it. And I was telling the guys, like, I know a lot of this stuff broke yesterday when I was sitting down with Ben Kenobi. I don't like speaking on it because I have to read these articles twice. So at least I don't sound like a boob. But Hargeet, I want to bring you in here. First of all, brother, thank you so much for taking the time to pop in on a Friday morning. I'm just interested to get your take on this because ultimately hearing the rhetoric, I'm not sure if you were listening to the earlier, the opening monologue that I gave. I said, reading the way Jim Ryan and Sony have approached this, overall, but more so on the recent response, their 10-page response to the CMA's reversal, almost appeared like a Mad Magazine parody. Like you would pick up a Mad Magazine parody and you would read it and you're like, okay, they're making fun of Batman or Spider-Man and they draw him really weird looking, and it's Alfred E. Neuman under the mask, right? And with the big head. And then you read some of the things that came out of Jim Ryan's mouth, and you're like, wow. I mean, is this actually was written or said by a 5-year-old? Because a lot of it doesn't make any sense. Let's get your hot take on their 10-page response. And remember, I just said it. They went from last year saying that yes, CMA knows what they're doing to CMA is irrational. It's quite shocking.
Yeah, I mean, it's not in their favor. That's really all it is, right? And so they're going to keep saying really stupid things. Look, I expect them to try to spin it in certain ways, but ultimately what they put in there is all the same crap we've already been hearing. Hey, they said they wouldn't take games away from PlayStation. They haven't, but they took Redfall away. You never had it to begin with, so they didn't take anything away. Everything they've said is consistent. They haven't lied to anybody, so the only person lying here is Sony. And oh well, it is what it is, right? So, and all the antics that they've been doing, they're afraid are going to be done to them. Call of Duty, and Microsoft stated this in their response, it has been hampered on every platform except PlayStation for the last decade. So, now you're afraid that maybe somebody will do that to you, even though they're saying they're not going to do that to anybody. Everybody's going to get the same version, barring any technical limitations. Switch may not get everything because, well, it's very underpowered. Fair enough, right? But they're going to try to make it as the same as they can on every platform. Not what Sony has done. They've taken away modes. They've taken away features. They've taken away content from everybody else but themselves, right? So that's what they're really afraid of, is that they're going to not have that power over the gamers, right? It is what it is. But I have this big question now for all the Sony fans. Jim Ryan has said that people will desert our platform in droves.
Yes.
Because Call of Duty will be a Microsoft property. Okay, cool. So you have two options, PlayStation fans. Either you validate your Lord and Savior and you get the hell away from PlayStation in droves. Go ahead and do that. Or you can tell him he's a liar and stay on PlayStation. Either way, I'm going to enjoy the outcome of this. We will see what happens. If 50% of the people leave, then Jim Ryan was right. And all those PlayStation fans had absolutely no loyalty to PlayStation whatsoever. Or they do have loyalty to PlayStation and they tell Jim Ryan, you're a lying bastard. You totally are full of crap.
Yes.
Which one is it? I will love to see the answer. We'll see where this goes. It'll be fun.
Yeah. It's funny. When you look overall, and Huggy, I do want to pose a question to you. I'm not sure if you've answered this on other shows or not. We're coming to a point where, a lot of people in the chat are asking. First of all, we have over 600 people here, which is amazing. So thank you, a big thank you for everyone that tuned in on a Friday morning. Hopefully you guys and gals are off for Good Friday. And then I really appreciate you hanging out here with us this morning to talk about all the shenanigans.
The Sony baloney.
Yeah, Sony baloney. Yeah, that's Hargeet actually coined that. Sony baloney. Yes. The question is, how long do they wait until they sign the deal? Is this like an 11th hour kind of a thing? Like they just throw their hands up in the air and sign the deal? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the last remaining hope they have is it's the FTC, and I don't know where that's going to end. It feels like political pressure is not going to be put on Lena Khan.
Yeah,
we will see how that goes, right? I mean, ultimately, it's still her decision unless she's removed.
Well, they did something very weird just recently. It was the judge ruled against the FTC. Mm-hmm. It was a particular case. It made the rounds, which is, and this is a lot of people were saying, hey, Microsoft should watch out. Microsoft has nothing to worry about. They will push the envelope and it will go to federal court. Apparently, their board of 4 people overturned the judge's decision to block this merger. So people are suggesting that this could be something that they do to Microsoft. That is not going to happen.
No, they could do it, but then it would have to go to federal court, right? The administrative judge is just part of their system,
Right?
And ultimately, the arbiter of whether that decision stands is back to the FTC board, right? So they can go ahead and say, no, we agree with our original assessment, but then it has to go to a federal court, right? And when it goes
they
to
would have
court,
they would close over them, forcing them to do the injunction.
Yeah, and then it would essentially, so with the administrative judge, they can still have, hey, let's have these concessions, work it out. With the federal judge, it's out. You basically get nothing. So the FTC would have no say. It would basically just get thrown out, right? So they are far better off coming to the table, but I don't know. This is a very politically active board, right? So whatever she comes up with, but I don't see a path where that is going to be the thing that allows Sony to not get it, to get what they want. In other words, it's not going to make a difference. The FTC thing is kind of overblown because there's no case in the US system where the FTC can actually block this. It's a vertical merger with a very small percentage shareholder. There's just nothing there. So they're not really going to get anything out of that. So it's best if it just goes through, but that is Sony's last hope, is that the FTC could do something. Ultimately, they don't have to sign a deal. They have 2 years still left on their contract.
That's correct.
So they could continue as is, pay the 80% to Microsoft or whatever the contract terms are. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but pay the money to Microsoft and continue your deal, continue your marketing, and then come to the table mid 2024 and try to negotiate. However, all the leverage you have, because the regulators are out of it at that point, is gone. You're much better off trying to do it with regulators. That's just a fair statement, right? Because the regulators are going to look to see how nice Microsoft is as far as playing with them, but all bets are off at that point, and they could ask for a lot of things, right? They could say, okay, cool, you can have Call of Duty, the game that apparently you need for everything, but I need these things from you, right? So you can't block games from Japan. You can't block that. They could say all sorts of things, right? Put all sorts of contract terms in place, right? So if Sony wants to play that game, they can. It's a gamble. Right? They're far better off taking advantage of the regulators and saying, well, okay, but then we need this, and this, fine, because the regulators are going to try to get the best deal for them as well, right? So they're better off doing it now. But that is kind of where it sits. It's really up to, Sony understanding where they are in this, saying, is this better for us to keep, our stance, or let's just make the deal, the best deal we can for our platform. And ultimately, I think that's what they're going to do, because they have to, right? Jim Ryan's job is not to, piss off Microsoft. It's to make the best thing for PlayStation, right? And that's what he's been doing. That's fair enough, right? Ultimately, though, if you see the tea leaves, they're going a certain direction, you have to then do what's right for your customers, for your bottom line, right? So you have to go make that best deal you can. They are far better off making a deal with the regulators than without. So that's
the regulator. If the regulators are involved, it's binding, right? It's a legally binding.
It's not only
contract.
binding. They can't get away with doing things that are better for Microsoft than they are for Sony, right? In this specific case, they can say everything's going to be in favor of Sony. There won't be much in favor of Xbox, right? Whereas if it's an open negotiation, then Microsoft could have all sorts of terms saying, hey, we don't like you doing this over here, that over there, we want this from you, right? They can have anything they want because it's an open contract, right? It's just open negotiation, right? They're far better off getting it with the regulators who are going to say, no, Sony's giving you nothing. You have to give them fair market terms, and let's get this deal done. So, but either way, right? That's where I see that happening. I think they will eventually come to the table because it's better for them, right? It ultimately is just better for them.
Yeah,
right.
No, I agree. I mean, it's a great point. It's a great point. Dredd, I want to bring you into the conversation. We start talking about contracts, and a lot of the times when we do that, you bring up your own personal history in understanding mergers and acquisitions because it happened to your company. We are at a position where the clock is running out. Time is running out for Sony. I like the way Hargeet put it down, where he basically said, because a lot of the times, and I blame myself for this. I've never actually thought about it until Hargeet put it in that way. We have always discussed on what Sony wants, right? And all of the times that we've been talking about this, I have yet to see what Microsoft wants in this deal, because ultimately it's a two-way street. At least it's supposed to be. And Sony is the market leader. They're the ones that still want Call of Duty because they need it for their first-party development, according to Jim Ryan. But what does Microsoft want? And Cargeet said something pretty damn interesting about blocking games, especially in the Japanese region, coming to Xbox. Final Fantasy being one of them. That's a pretty interesting thought and theory about what exactly Microsoft might want. What are your thoughts on this, dude? Uh-oh. Hold on a sec. Are you there, Dredd?
Yeah. Okay,
Oh,
there we
okay.
are. I didn't even know I was muted. I was like talking away. We already know what Microsoft wants. Any corporation, it's all about the shareholders, stockholders, the CEOs. They're all looking about it for money, right? So all goodwill that Xbox is putting out there ultimately is good for as a strategy. Okay, so we know Phil truly means it, but it's also part of his job, right? So just like us, we're here. We love you guys in the chat. We love communicating with the community and hanging out and playing games and discussions and educating ourselves as well as you guys. But there's more to it, so it's not as simple as it is on the face, because we want these games to be out there to all gamers. Phil's a gamer, right? So it makes sense for him to say that, because yet again, the more gamers are out there buying games that they're selling, more money in their pocket, right? So anything like this is a strategy, and Hargeet's right, because once they're no longer forced to do and play by CMAs or FTC's rules or any of that stuff, any of those regulators, if they're not forced to do it anymore, it's their call to do what they want at that point in time. So again, it's Sony's best interest to have somebody cover their back, which is what they're trying to do. They're trying to have somebody to cover for them to do all this. But the funny thing is they're calling out the shots that they're doing, right? And for Microsoft, it's the same scenario. Goodwill means money, right? So we're all talking about how good Game Pass is for us. We can play all these games, right? How about those people that had subscriptions to Blockbuster? That was money for Blockbuster. They just had to buy the game one or two times, and they just kept on re-renting it to us multiple times. It's money. And unfortunately, everything deals with money. You can't live without money. There's nothing that we do in our society today that does not involve trade of some sort of money involvement. So when you look at it like that, yeah, cold hard facts is it's all about money. And when Sony's done and it's Microsoft's call, they can do whatever they want, and they'll be calling money shots. Obviously, you're not going to sit there and say, look, I'm going to shut you down, because it's bad for them. It's bad business. It's a bad image. It's a bad look. And they're not going to be making that kind of money. So for Sony to do that, you're basically cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Indeed, they are. Yeah, good point.
When they're doing that, that's what's going to happen. Microsoft can be like, yeah, whatever. They got, what was that company? Boostroid, right? Blastroid, Boostroid.
Yeah, Boosteroid. Yeah, that's
Boosteroid.
the.
I said Blastroid last time.
Yeah, that's the last streaming one that they signed to deal with.
So you look at that. What are they doing? They didn't have to do that. They're just proving a point that we're allowing these other companies to stream these games. We're allowing this to happen.
The cloud conundrum that was kind of holding everything up.
Right. So what is that? Goodwill, but it's also about money.
Yeah,
because without that, they're not making that kind of money. So getting that exposure, they've already said that they want to hit so many more gamers out there that they could ever reach console alone. So we already know the demographic has changed. The most important thing that they wanted ABK is what? Cell phone games, right? You look at King and you look at Candy Crush. Look how huge that game is. Huge. Nobody talks about it anymore. People just still play it, but it's no longer
Millions
as
upon millions
popular.
of dollars, dude.
Yeah.
That makes daily. It's crazy.
No longer as popular as it was, but it's still huge in the grand scheme of things. So, like my wife is playing. It's not Candy Crush, but it's a form of it, right? And you have jewels on Xbox when you go on your Xbox app and you do those.
I play it all the time. I'm not gonna lie.
I play it almost every day.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done it in the past 2 weeks because I've been so busy. But I know that's yet again, I'm racking up my Xbox points, my reward points because of that, because of Game Pass rewards that we do those things. Your daily check-in and your daily little quizzes that you do on Bing, your searches, all that I'm doing regardless, right? So it's still getting me out there to play games. I'm still doing stuff, and that's what they want. They want people interacting and on their platform. It doesn't matter what the platform is now, because the platform is no longer a console. The platform is the ecosystem, and people forget that. And if they can get PlayStation on board, they've already said it here. We'll even put it on your streaming service, so that way the Game Pass thing that you're saying is no longer viable. We've put it out here on NVIDIA's service. We put it out here on Boostroid's service. We're offering you this service. Ultimately, it's all about money. You know, they're going to get that money.
I got news for you, brother. If I'm Phil Spencer, this is the petty boom, folks. All right, so pardon me for a second, Dread. If once I saw that response from the CMA where they said that, yeah, we moved Sony off the board. They're no longer concerned. We're gonna focus on cloud. That in PlayStation Plus deal, boop. You could have signed it. You'd have had it.
But here's the
gone.
funny part. Here's the funny part.
That's gone.
You give them Call of Duty. You don't have to give them anything else.
Oh,
they
no,
thought about Call of Duty.
See,
that's
what.
Ultimately,
that's what
the rest of it. If you want to be that petty, you'd be like, all right. You know what? You are the market leader when it comes to this. You are when you look at console, right? When you look at console numbers, and that's what a few other devs have done. Cliffy B was even on Iron Lords. He even admitted why he went to PlayStation, because he looked at the numbers. And those numbers again are exaggerated. How many PlayStation 4s did you buy, Boom? How many?
I see. Between me and my brother alone, we're good for 8.
Right?
We both bought the PlayStation 1. We both bought. My wife bought the God of War edition. My brother bought the God of War edition. And then when the PlayStation 4 Pro came out, I bought the regular edition, and then I bought the some sort of a collector's edition afterwards. My brother did the same thing. So just in our small niche, we were good for 8 by ourselves.
And how many subscriptions do you have?
Oh, I have at least a dozen, dude.
That's like personal like subscriptions to PlayStation.
Well, just the one. Yeah.
You have one. Your brother has one, so that's 2. Yeah. So you're 1 for 4. One subscription for. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. It's one profile.
Yeah.
Per 4 consoles that you've purchased. So the numbers are overinflated that way.
Right? Yeah. There's not 117 million PlayStation gamers. That's just how many consoles. I've
got 3 Xboxes here: a Series X, a One X, and a OG one that still use my account and my daughter's account. Okay, so yet again, the numbers are overinflated when you look at consoles, but when you're looking at the actual engagement numbers, is because people that are actually subscribed in one form or another playing those games, those are accounts that you have, whether you're on a service or not. That's numbers that mean money, because those are the people that are buying games. It's not 4 consoles buying games; it's one person buying game out of your house.
Yeah.
Right. So when you look at it like even with your wife, Mrs. Boomstick, when she's there and you buy games for her, you guys are both playing the same game together. Or it's basically one for the household. Even if you had 2, then you can kind of you start fidgeting the numbers that way. Okay, well, it's still money, is it not? It still makes a difference. But if you're Microsoft, you want a Call of Duty, we're putting Call of Duty here and there. But guess what? Just like Starfield is exclusive only, just like Redfall, exclusive only.
It's funny you mentioned Redfall, and I had this point and I forgot to make mention of it, and this is the pettiness. This is the ridiculous pettiness. Did you guys know, and chat, we have almost 700 people here, so thank you for tuning in. Did anyone read where Sony actually used IGN's article as a talking point for the gotcha moment for Xbox? You see, IGN, one of the biggest publications in journalism, said and confirmed that there was a Redfall version for PlayStation, but it was canceled by Xbox per the developer. They actually said that in the document.
Mhm.
And I say, so what?
Yep.
Did they make mention to regulators that they tried to buy Starfield as a permanent exclusive and Microsoft just bought the whole farm and said just a cow? They didn't say that, did they? I'm just saying. Continue,
No,
please.
but and that's the thing, they're worried about, sorry, but I'm going to say this out there. All right. I'm going to also assume, right, outside of you and me, I'm going to assume that there was a PlayStation version of Starfield in the works also.
Oh, I'm sure there was.
Because, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. No, if you're going to be planning out this, right? We talked to our friend, oh man, I just dropped his name. But anyway, a developer friend that we have, he made that Viking game.
Oh, you're talking about Joe?
Yes, Joe.
Yeah.
So
Joe from Song of Iron.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Joe Winter. When we talked about it, he made plans on Xbox only because he could only do one platform at a time. Right.
Correct.
He's a single indie developer.
Yep.
All right. So when you're talking about like that, okay, that makes sense. You have to figure out because he also had to do the same thing like Cliffy, but he's a lone person doing this, trying to figure out where his money would be the best placed for the bets, right? And that's a gamble that he's taking. Same thing with Cliffy. That's the gamble that that his studio was taking. Now, when you look at it, you're like, okay, cool. As a bigger studio, you can also develop multiple consoles, but you're figuring out what is the benefit. Okay, well, I can do this here, I can do that there, and then you start going from there. You got to start it from the ground up to say, okay, we're going to put it here and there. And you don't think Bethesda is doing that with their devs? They're like, okay, let's before the acquisition, okay, let's we're putting this here, we're putting that there. All of Wolfenstein was everywhere, was it not? All of these games that they put out was just about everywhere. You got Doom just everywhere, and it makes sense. Why would you not build for it? Why would you only build for one and then turn around and build for the other? So when it comes to Redfall, that made sense, and unfortunately, IGN paid shill for Sony. What?
Yeah, then you could say it. I'll say it.
Even Ryan McCaffrey, as much as I like that guy, I still hate him for his inconsistencies. It's like I don't care. I don't care if you're a fanboy of one or the other, but when you're acting like you're a true fan of this, then maybe you should act like it. Yeah, I'm an Xbox fan, but I'm also going to call him out. But I'm not flip flopping. Nobody else here is flip flopping.
And what you're referring to is how he really threw Microsoft under the bus with the Tomb Raider exclusivity. Yes. And then he turned around and applauded Sony for blocking Final Fantasy VII.
Hey, right. Boom. Now,
yes, sir.
Just one thing. Sorry, Dreb, but Final Fantasy VII, we know that was in the works for the Xbox.
There's a version Square has a version right now. They have a version.
So we need to uprise against the machine and tear them down because of. Come on now, really, whatever. That's the problem. It's like we're complaining that we want to play it, but we're not saying that oh my Lord, can you believe that they've just done this, that they've canceled this? Can you believe, you know what I mean? We're not making it a big deal out of it. And that's the problem is it when they do make a big deal, it sounds like a freaking
it's
a broken record. They always complain
is
about Xbox, but anytime Sony does it, it doesn't. And it
just goes back to the adage, brother. Sony good, Microsoft bad. But listen, I do
just want it to be fair across the board.
And it's not going to be. Like I said, shout out to Retri of Game Pass _daily, which you're not following that dude. You should be because he works with Web Dave once a week on Sunday evenings on the Gamers Council podcast, which you should definitely check out as well. We'll get more about that towards the end with the outros, but I do want to shout him out specifically because he had made a statement, and I was like, I don't know. Now that I've seen it, the last couple of weeks have been brutal for Xbox when it comes to journalistic integrity. Right? No one is defending Microsoft's purchase of this. That it's going to benefit consumers. It's all anti-Xbox rhetoric for weeks upon weeks. But I'm going to get to the super chats. But the question I'm going to pose to the chat is: this has been a pretty bad week for Sony. This has been a pretty bad week. If you take into account the horrendous numbers for PlayStation VR 2.0, the idea that they want to put out a handheld that's streaming only from the PlayStation 5, which is just dumb. The comments from Jim Ryan just are at best comical. And they've had a pretty bad week. And then of course you add to the conversation how bad of a port The Last of Us was. You know what's bananas? Every one of those stories, if it would have been Xbox, would have been the front page of every page news feed from here to Texas and back. And nothing, right? We didn't see any anti-Naughty Dog articles. You know, people just laughing at, oh, those like Bethesda puts out games like that. You know, it's okay. It's fine. It's Naughty Dog. They're allowed to do it. I don't know. Let me catch up on super chats, and we're going to get into what Sony does to kind of fix the course correct, because I kind of feel that they're on a trajectory of epic failure. They have not been talking about their games, right? Like when you say Sony, say PlayStation, right? The first thing any real fan will be like is like, well, they have great first party stuff, and I'm a fan, so that's what I say. I'm like, God of War, amazing. Last of Us on the console, fantastic. You know, Horizon, you know, had some bugs, whatever, but the first one's still one of my favorites of the modern gen PlayStation 4, 5, right? For me personally, I love Aloy. I think she's an amazing character. But what does PlayStation do now? Because usually winning cures everything. So maybe they drop a Spider-Man trailer. Maybe they drop a Wolverine trailer. Maybe they actually have a game show. I don't know. Maybe that's what's coming on the 8th with Jeff Keighley's first day of his show, because that's rumored for June 8th. It's supposed to be the Sony show. They're back. I would imagine it's going to be the Year of Dreams. But can they continue down this course? How do they course correct this? But let me catch up on the super chats. Stitch6669 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, all I want is for the ponies to either call out Jim on his BS comments or put out a video saying that their bangers aren't poo. Great show, Boom and panel. Thanks, brother. Thank you for the super chat and thank you for the comment. Scott Gamer Dude drops a very generous additional $10 super chat and says, hey, Boom, how bummed were you when you heard E3 was canceled? Devastated. Two reasons. One, the channel was officially recognized by ReadPop and the ESA, because I got an email from them saying, hey, Double Barrel Gaming, Mr. BoomStick XL, we're just writing to you to let you know that we're not having the show. So the fact that I was acknowledged as potential media going to this thing validates all the work that I do. So personally, it was a victory for the channel, because we're still considered small. More than anything, I'm heartbroken because I've already put the money away for the trip. I planned for the trip. I was going to go with Kay Asante. I was going to meet middle-aged gamer guy and his wife down there. My biggest disappointment isn't that there's no E3, because it's going to come back at some form and fashion. The disappointment for me personally is meeting the people, meeting other podcasters, meeting the community down there, you know, grabbing a Dr. Pepper with somebody, you know, going and sitting shoulder to shoulder with like a Jez Corden, which I did. He sat behind me and King David and Tim Dog at the 2019 E3 Xbox show. Things like that. That is what I'm going to miss. And I haven't been to E3 since 2019, and I was really looking forward to it. So I'm a bit heartbroken over it for sure. Hadari Mac in the in the chat drops a very generous $5.50 super chat and says, besides the ones created by you, which sites do you guys recommend for accurate and unbiased video game news? Look, I know Andy Robinson has kind of been in the crosshairs of people of VGC. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I like Andy a lot. We all make mistakes. We all say dumb things. That's life, folks. I particularly enjoy VGC. That's like my main source. I like Tom Warren of The Verge. I like Jez Corden of Windows Central. Those are my three mains. I mean, obviously, choice is a lot of them out there. I used to really, really like Game Rank, or Game Rant, I should say. I'm sorry, and they kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. I mean, again, if you want my personal opinion, guys, in the chat, gals in the chat, it's for me, it's Windows Central. It's Tom Warren of The Verge. I like Paul Tassi too. I like Paul's when he writes. Paul writes for what does Paul write for? Is it Bloomberg? Is it Bloomberg? I think he writes.
I think it's either Bloomberg or New York.
I like Paul Tassi also. I mean, he can be scandalous a little bit. But I like Paul. I like Paul Tassi a lot as well. So those are my 4 picks. Hopefully that helps you. Find a place where you can somewhat trust. Again, have your own opinion. I don't always believe what they say. There you go. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Lord Roughness in the chat, who's been a channel member for 2 months. Lord Roughness, welcome back, brother. How the heck are you? Scott Gamer Dude drops an additional very generous $5 super chat and says, hey, Hargeet, always smiling. I think that gallon jug you're always drinking some happy juice like moonshine, LOL. And big shout out to Hargeet who had the bounce. Thanks so much for dropping your hot opinion and knowledge as always. Lucius Mesh in the chat drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, Sony rhymes with baloney. Just saying. I love it. Lord Roughness drops a very generous £5 super chat and says, absolute joke. If ABK deal gets done, what's more likely to happen is that Call of Duty gamers will come back to what has always been the best place to play, and that is Xbox Live. And I think people, I don't want to say droves. I think value proposition is really the best way to describe what I said this on many shows. In fact, I even said it yesterday when I was sitting down with Ben. The difference between Microsoft and SIE are very, very clear. They're not even close. Sony is a dinosaur. They are stuck in the past. They're stuck in the mud, folks. Microsoft it took a huge risk with this thing that we all champion in Xbox Game Pass, because they had to lose a lot of money up front. There's just no doubt about it. They're 30 million plus now, and they don't have any quote unquote bangers, as the kids like to say. They kicked the teeth of the industry in. I'm sorry, that's what they did. The door or the teeth, whatever mantra you want to use, they just kicked in the door and said, no, we're going to do things differently. And they put the consumer first. That's not what Sony does. They put the consumers last because they put money first. And that's why when Call of Duty in 2025, because obviously Sony has the marketing rights for this year and next year. So after next holiday, 2024, Sony loses the market share, the market rights for Call of Duty. That reverts back to the owner, which will be Microsoft. And if you are someone that wants to wait, wants to buy the game on PlayStation, go ahead and buy the game for $76.43 in New York. Go ahead. Or get yourself an Xbox, play on PC, play on your phone, play on your computer, wherever you want to play. And for $15 a month, hopefully still at that time, you'll be able to play Call of Duty for just pressing download. Boop. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Let's see. Sean Murray. Wow, Sean, thank you so much for the generosity. He drops, folks, a $20 super chat and say, Mr. BoomStick, it's been a while since I've been here in super chat. Well, thank you for the generosity, Sean. I super appreciate it. He said, I wanted to say, have a happy Sunday, and that Sony has buried themselves so far deep that it's not funny. And I feel like even only has to do this is bad. Yeah, it's listen, I think ultimately the dagger in the heart of the whole deal has to be that Jim Ryan statement. I mean, I know it's the numbers, folks, and I've been preaching numbers, and you can't argue numbers. But my God, when you say, they keep the inside voice in and think what you want to think, but don't put it out there to the ether. The minute Jim Ryan actually said those words, I think everyone knew he was full of shit, and they were like, "No, we have to do the right thing here because this is he doesn't even want to take a deal." So no deal. Microsoft, Phil Spencer could give him the Killer Instinct shirt off his back, and it wouldn't matter to Jim Ryan. He'd just throw it in and wipe his shoes with it. That you can't be like that, and regulators don't like that, And that's the arrogance of Jim Ryan. That's the arrogance of Sony, and now they're paying for it. Jason Redmond drops a very generous additional $5 super chat and says, Nintendo is the king of handheld gaming, but nowhere close to Apple or Google in the handheld mobile. Well, I mean, mobile is just so big. And as we know, Apple Arcade has 100 million subscribers. I mean, think about that for a second.
And
Dave, so Hargeet had to pop out of here. Yeah, thanks again, Hargeet.
Some of us are paying $1,000 for these phones, right?
Yeah.
$1,000.
That's why I haven't upgraded, because I'm not doing that anymore.
Oh, I hear you. But that's, it just goes to the point that, how big Google and Android are Google and Apple. Google
and that's
and
why
Apple
Microsoft
when it
wants
comes to that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Fuzzy, let's get your hot take on this, brother. Where does Sony course correct at this point? Because like I said, I mean, ultimately, if you just I'm a checklist kind of a guy.
Yeah.
Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Sony's had a pretty poor week. I'd say even a bad week and a half. And the camel, or the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, as they say, or the swerve in the road, is these statements that now have been made public. The CMA put their stuff out there. It just puts Sony in such a bad light. Again, so you got the poor sales from PSVR 2.0.
Yeah.
You got the buggy mess that is The Last of Us on PC. I mean, I think it's right now, it's at a user score is like a 1.6 on Reddit, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You have this new handheld that came out, and it's rumored, and again, folks, I'm not making this stuff up. Go look for it for yourself. It's rumored to be only a streaming device from your PlayStation 5, F for fail. And now this. How does Sony fix this, bro? I mean, because they're definitely ice skating uphill.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things that they can do to turn things around. Like, I have to admit it. Like, I'm a fan of both consoles. I prefer my Xbox mainly because of the ecosystem and the games and just the community in general. Yeah. But I didn't buy the other $500 box just to have it collect dust. But
right, of course not.
The things that at least what I can see that they could do to kind of course correct things. I kind of put this out there on like Twitter, although most people are like already burnt on either PSVR 2 or whatever the case may be. But they have that Creed game right now that looks like it's a pretty decent one. They had Gran Turismo. Like I think if they had gone to like Slow Clap and had them make Sifu a VR fighter, basically a John Wick simulator from first person perspective, I think that would help matters. I think if they continue to look at like some of these smaller PC first person shooter games, like there's one that I think might wind up coming to PSVR down the road, but they definitely need to help them as far as getting that game across the finish line, and that's Geronimo. I think it's like Dark Matter Studios or something like that. Another thing, like, of course, they don't have the Microsoft pockets as far as for acquisitions, but there are a ton of smaller studios that would probably be able to fill some holes in their lineup as far as the products that they have. Like, first, I'll start with racing. Me being the racing fan that I am, I'm pretty surprised that they haven't re-looked at making an arcade racer. Like Drive Club, despite its terrible launch as far as not having servers that work for an online game, it had its merit. And given that there's this calling for Forza Horizon to go to Japan, so it has like the nighttime midnight club racing kind of feel to it. Yeah. Why isn't Sony doing that? Like, that should be one of those things where it's like, all right, Polyphony, we know you're slow to make these Gran Turismo games, but we just want to take the files as far as for a little bit of the handling. We'll dumb it down a bit as far as make it a little little more inviting or a little bit more manageable, and we'll take the car models as far as the visuals, and we'll put it in like a map that's of like downtown Tokyo or something along those lines, and make an actual arcade racer that would probably draw quite a bit of people if they have like some of the visuals of Gran Turismo, but have this street racing and drifting simulator per se. I think that would be a draw for them, and I don't know why. I kind of know why they closed Evolution Studio after Drive Club, but it's something that they should have probably looked at as far as moving forward, working towards getting that franchise built up.
I would love a new MotorStorm. How many people in the chat played
yeah.
MotorStorm? The first MotorStorm on the PlayStation 3, literally, folks, one of my favorite racers of all time. Like, it is up there.
Yes.
I played that game for so long. It was bonkers.
I mean, even before it released, they had that demo disc thing where I think you could even do online. And I played the crap out of that to the point where I think I melted the disc on my PS3. But yeah, have another MotorStorm, or bring back Twisted Metal. I know there's been rumors that they're working on something. And if you look at what was that, Destruction All Stars, that wouldn't it. They should have just made a full on Twisted Metal modern day. Don't worry about getting out the car, just
another
car
one.
combat stuff. Like, have that ready to go. And if you can't convince Valve to sign a deal to get Half-Life Alyx for PSVR, then work on having Resistance as that replacement, because Resistance kind of followed that Half-Life kind of feel to some extent.
Resistance 1,
yeah.
Dude, another unbelievable Insomniac IP. I didn't like 2 and 3. I played through 1 probably about a dozen times.
Yeah, 1 was that lightning in a bottle kind of thing, and I think they could get that respark type of deal, but they definitely need to make sure they don't just abandon this PSVR. Like, at that point, making a handheld is not going to bode well for them, because we already know their track record with it. Yeah, they were great handhelds, but did they support them? Not really.
No,
so
they did what they always do. They put out a game or two first party, and you're like, wow, this is great, and they stop.
Yeah, and to be honest, if this is just going to be a remote play box, like, I think they would have been better off going to Valve and having like a partnership with Steam Deck, so you could do remote play on your Steam Deck without having to download, what is that? It's not Cydia, but it's like some sort of like app that you can kind of use to do remote play. But if you're not, mod computer savvy kind of thing, it's a pain in the neck to try to get the keyboard code and put in your licensing or your instance code into the Steam Deck to make it mimic that it's a PC, so you could do the remote play. It's just a headache. So if they made something that was like ready to download from the Steam store, so you could do remote play a lot easier and not have to do remote play from your PC to your Steam Deck to kind of do the workaround, that would be a huge step forward. And they wouldn't have to do any of the R&D as far as for an actual handheld. But the big thing on the list that they need to do to kind of put all this rake stepping that they're doing right now to themselves, do a showcase. Like, don't wait for E3 week. Like, you've been holding off for almost 2 years now on showing anything other than like the 6 seconds that they showed of Spider-Man 2 at that D23 event. It's time to like crap or get off the pot kind of thing, and they need to show us that showcase of dreams. And I understand Sony has that leeway where, well, they've produced and delivered on things, and it's like, no. What have you done for me lately? Like, come on. We need to see not just the third party stuff, because yes, we know Final Fantasy 16 is right around the corner. We know that hopefully Spider-Man meets this year deadline. Not this deadline, but comes out this year. And rumor has it, per one of the voice actors, that it might be around the same time as Starfield. But outside of that, where's Pragmata? I know that's a third party deal with Capcom. I want to see it. I want to hear some more about it. Ronin, the Way of the Ronin or whatever.
That looks fantastic. That looks really good. Yeah.
I mean, they should also be, working on making something similar to, well, not similar, but why haven't we heard anything about Ghost of Tsushima 2? Like, I'm pretty sure that's got to be in the works somewhere, somehow. And then factions, like, I know they want to show us more when it's ready, but come on, are we're okay with just seeing like clip art? Well, not clip art, but like fan art. Well, not fan art, but like
Yeah, I
concept
know what
art.
you're talking about. Yeah, we need to see
So it's
gameplay. That game was
yeah,
supposed to launch right. That online mode was supposed to launch with The Last of Us 2, and it didn't.
yeah. I mean, and it's funny looking back with the whole Last of Us One remake and stuff like that. Why didn't they just release like a high res version of the original to kind of keep people, hold them over until you actually release factions too? But that's a whole nother story. But there's so many
Yeah,
things that they
I
have
think
in
people are
their
getting tired though. You know, the reason why I mean we keep talking about this, that they become the remaster machine. And
yeah,
again, it's not a problem if I already own the game. You gave me, you give me like you just let me play it, but they want to
yeah.
charge you a full $70. That's the problem.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that they can, dig in the crates of their library and bring out some of these games, or at least show us what they've been, holding off to kind of remain in this weak stance that they wanted to, appear before some of these regulators while battling with Microsoft. While they're the market leader, it's like, come on, you're the market leader. Show your market leadership now with a showcase instead of waiting until E3 week. Because other than like these state of plays that are just before the game comes out, what have you done for me lately? That's all I
Yeah.
got.
No, it's good stuff. I mean, great points, Dave. Talk about it, brother. What could Sony do to course correct this? Because, like I said, it's been one bad news bomb after another, and we know that they're not going to get any coverage or negative coverage from the press because the press is afraid of them. That's the truth. What do they do? I mean, they do. Again, I said it earlier. Winning does cure everything. Are you on board with Fuzzy? Do they need to crap or get off the pot and put out a good show?
I'm always on board with Fuzzy. He knows what he's talking about, and yeah, putting out, they seem like they have probably something in the works or in the can that they're just kind of they're waiting until the quote unquote E3 time, or maybe closer to when Microsoft, getting ready to do their showcase,
Right.
that maybe they'll drop something right before it to kind of maybe take some of the wind out of the sails. You know what I mean? I have a feeling that might be, what they're planning, but who knows for real. But obviously they need to do something. There really is only one first party scheduled game that we all know about, and it's Spider-Man 2. If it does make it, which most likely it's going to, because they're probably um incredibly
Well, they're banking
working.
on it for sure. There's no
Yeah,
doubt about it.
and
Yeah.
they're probably really having their staff stay over and work hard, and beefing it up. It's kind of a mandate probably to get this done, because they really need to have that big first party game at the holidays. But we'll see. It's it's so, right now you feel like the Jim's just focused on the CMA and all this other stuff, and they're really kind of taking the eye off the prize, as it were. But somebody did say in chat earlier, which was a really good point. Even all this kind of bad press or bad stuff that they're getting right now, their systems are selling like crazy. So no matter what you can want to say bad about Sony, um, their systems are selling.
Dude,
Now
they just had the greatest
Yeah.
February, if you didn't know, folks, across multiple regions, was Sony's best year, best month, 30 days, year to date ever for any PlayStation. So PlayStation 5 is going to sell. It's going to destroy the PlayStation 4 sales. There's no about. Again, I like the system. I quite enjoy my PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that yeah, great system. But now we got to ask, where are the first party games?
Right.
And again, I said it about. I'm still giving Microsoft the business for that, because as great as we have promised, and there's great games in development, we need those games now. They're starting to come out, but now Sony's kind of in a bit of a samey kind of a pickle.
Yeah. One thing you said earlier, it's just slightly off topic, the topic before, but the one thing that was brought up is that Microsoft was offering that they could put Call of Duty into their service,
Right.
and they don't seem to be interested in that. I think that's the last thing in the world they want, because they don't want people to get in their
Anticipate putting their
service.
first party stuff, right? Yeah.
Well, that and they want that money. That's $70 a pop is, and what they get their percentage off of. That's where their money's made, clearly. So they don't want it to be in their service ever. They don't like service. They don't like Game Pass. The reason they do what they do now is just to kind of appease. That's why they put like a lot of older games in there, and very rarely put a new game or a day and date game, if ever, hardly ever. I think it's like what, 2 maybe day and date games since the service has really kicked in.
Yes.
So it's because to them that's not the business model that they like. They like making all their money up front.
Yeah.
So, but sorry, I didn't mean get off on a rant on that, but
no, it's fine. I mean, listen, I mean, great points all around there. I like the conversation. First of all, folks, as we get ready to close out the show, because we're at the 12 o'clock hour, I do want to bring Dreadpool into the conversation and get his final opinion, and we'll get outros, and you guys and gals can enjoy your awesome expected holiday weekend. Dread, how does Sony course correct here in order to to get some positive news, because it has been pretty bad for them?
They would have to. I'm going to say it. They would have to join forces with Xbox and be a third-party publisher. No, I'm kidding. No, they really. If you think about it, like what Dave said is they don't like services. It's kind of like the kid that only likes chocolate ice cream but won't try the mint. You know what I mean? Don't know, they're too stubborn, or the like the ones that like vanilla but they don't like chocolate. When you look at it, they're too stubborn to try anything new. And when it comes to that, that's part of the problem is they're still stuck in the old school mentality, and we are no longer in the old school where you could do what you're doing, and that's the problem. They need to be a little bit more open. I mean, right? We were talking about console sales. Who's the number one in console sales? And when we've already proven a point that console sales really are a bad metric. It's just an overinflated metric when you look at it compared to who's actually buying. So when you look at it like that, it's like, okay, well, we need to move on. And they have moved on to active users. They even said that they have changed that metric, but they don't boast that metric. They boast the other metric because it's a better number. What did I say about Excel? You take something out and you show the other thing, and all of a sudden it looks good or it looks bad depending on what you take out and what you leave in. And this is what they're doing. They're still looking at old school mentality, and this is how we're going to win, and this is how we stay winning. But it's like, no, you're still playing checkers. We've moved on to chess now. It's not the same. We have to actually think more when it comes to planning your moves. It's not just the next couple moves, it's the rest of the game. That a lot of these chess masters have already played 15 games in their head at least when they move that one pawn. So they have to figure out where their competitor is and what style they're playing. And Sony has stopped doing that. They need to go back and stop doing the remasters. If they do, I've always said it, bring back stuff from like 2 generations ago. Siphon Filter is a prime example. So,
dude, I literally just had that conversation. Like, how come there's not a new Siphon Filter? Like,
right?
Why not?
Yeah, we were just talking about MotorStorm. They have so many IPs that they can bring back, even if they have to talk to another party that is involved with this part of that IP. But they could do it, and they've got the power to bring those games back. And that's the other thing is bring those games, expand. We've talked about how Sony is the first person single player game, not first person, but single player game king, right? They're the ones that have the quality when it comes to this. They all of this stuff, right? Just everything that they do, this is their specialty. Okay, well, expand on it, right? We had Last of Us, and then we had what was the other one?
Horizon?
Dude. No, the motorcycle
you're
dude.
talking about
Oh, Days Gone.
Days Gone, yeah. And why did they stop? And Days Gone, everybody loved.
Yeah, well,
why did
that
they stop?
studio's.
They said, yeah, but the thing was, everybody loved it, and they said they had too many zombies, so they didn't want to, intermix the two of them. And okay, that's fine, but they could have done other things. You know what I mean? So expand what they have. They need to do that and move on. They're right now. Last of Us is a one-trick pony. Basically, if you look at it, oh, okay, we got a show. Okay, we're going to put this PC port that we've already explained is become trash. Why do we have to do this? Xbox has learned that they can't be a one-trick pony. It can't be the bro shooter, bro dude, and all that.
It can't be Forza, Halo, and Gears. They had to change their metric. Correct.
That's what it became. It went from the pro shooter console to the Forza, Gears, Halo. And they had to like adjust on it, and then everybody's like, well, I don't want to play these kid games. Well, no, you don't want to play the kid games, but guess what? We got a next generation that's coming up. We got to get them stuck into this ecosystem, right? Remember what I said about money? Same thing, both sides. They're all about money. And how do you get the next generation in there? Our generation was bouncing around between consoles, playing games, arcades. Didn't matter where we played. We had fun. Yeah, we threw little elbows at each other. We were playing fighting games. We were playing all these different games. You're talking about Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. Then you go to Tomb Raider, and then you went to Final Fantasy. You see what I'm saying? We had a plethora of games to choose from, and it wasn't really a console fight, except for laughing at the commercials that they were doing their console war, between the two of them. We weren't like part of that war as it was, and there was that camaraderie and the, like I said, elbow jabbing that we would do to each other as friends, but we didn't take it to heart. It wasn't something that we took and wore it like a badge of honor. This is the mentality that people are at. They need to stop with that, because they're buying into their own lies. They're buying into their own hype. If you think about it, right? What do we talk about? PlayStation 3. Oh, get a second job, right? We joked about PlayStation 5 and the PSVR 2. Get a second job. Oh, wait, you might need a third job for this one, right? These jokes are based on relevance. There's stuff that happened.
Yeah.
And it's
unfortunately
based on reality that has happened before. But they need to figure out and get out of their own way, get out of their own head. And who were the kings of marketing back in the day? Xbox. Who became kings of marketing recently, or not recently, but the past 20 years? PlayStation.
Yeah.
Right. Well, get out of your own head, become the king again. I mean, you're just treading above water. It's that swimmer that has been treading for years in the ocean, but they don't have a life jacket. They didn't have anything to, I don't know, save themselves. And pretty soon that's what's going to happen. They need to figure it out, get those games that, like we said, bring it back, and the old games that are old enough, bring it back for the next generation to appreciate and understand what we're talking about. Because sorry, when we try to bring PlayStation back, even we are like, those games are kind of, I love the game, but the graphics, the controls, this and that, same
they have a ton of IP they could return to.
Yeah.
And I think that they need to announce something in the coming days.
Those are the ones that they need return to and remake. I've said it before with Xbox. Those games, look at KOTOR, the original KOTOR. I was happy when they said that they were going to come back and remake that game, because as much as I love KOTOR and KOTOR 2, I just could not go back and play it. I tried.
No, they're hard. It's
I
very
love
old.
Those are fun games, but the controls are so bad. Those are the games you need to remake, not something that you just remade 3 times ago in this past generation. You see what I'm saying? That's the problem, is they're still stuck on that thing. They need to expand and do like they did with their marketing and be better. There's so many different avenues. Fuzzy was just talking about the VR. There were so many applications that they could have pushed out for those games. Sifu would have been a great game to turn into a VR game. So so many different avenues.
Well, we're gonna see, Dread. I hate to say this, but right now they're laser focused on ABK, and because of that, they are making mistake after mistake. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Breakfast with Boom this week. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We have well over 600 people here today. I cannot thank you enough for supporting the channel, especially with the super chats and the channel memberships. They really do allow for us to do different things. Keep up to date with our programs, like Make the Show. The lighting that I bought this recently, it's $108 just for the lighting itself, and we can't do that without your help. So thank you so much for that. I dropped the link, and I will drop the link again. And if you're interested in picking up any of the merch that we had just launched, now we're a month launched from a couple of weekends ago, and people are really enjoying it. And of course, I got to thank Sean Labrie, the Richter, and Ben Kenobi. Those are the three artists that we used to bring our vision of merch to reality. And again, that costs money as well because they don't work for free. So once again, thank you for that. Let's get to the outros. We'll start first with Dave. Dave, brother, sell your brand. Talk about not only that your channel on YouTube is on the hunt for 1K, but you have a new show that you've been doing for the last month or so with, of course, Retri of Game Pass _daily, called the Gamers Council podcast. Talk about it, brother. Where can people check that out? When can they check it out? And more importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
Thanks, Boom. Did you get the last 2 super chats?
Let me see.
Right after the thank you for Hard.
Yeah, I don't think you got those 2.
No, I did not. Let's see. We have Scott Gamer Dude. Wow, brother. He drops a ridiculous and outrageous $20 super chat. Wow, I can't believe I missed that. Hello, Boom. I've been cheating on my Xbox with my new Steam Deck. Good on you, brother. I have a Steam Deck. You know where it is? It's in the box. I've set it up. I bought Resident Evil 2 on it, and I haven't played it since. It's out of my wheelhouse for the Steam Deck. I just want to play Xbox games on it, and I'm probably going to end up selling it, to be honest with you. But that's awesome. He says, Steam Mantha likes to be tinkered with. Do you have a tube channel recommendation for emulation help? You know what? I would reach out to Kay Asante. Kay Asante knows that Steam Deck forward, backwards. John Wolf on Twitter is another one. That dude is a Steam Deck, genius. I would definitely reach out to them because they've had the Steam Deck since inception, and they definitely can help you out. Reach out to both of them, John Wolf on Twitter and Kay Asante as well. Drawn TJ drops a very generous $2 super chat. Hey, Drawn, how you feeling, brother? Good morning. He drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, good morning, Boom. Good morning to you as well. But Dave, sell your brand, brother.
I'll make it quick. Just wanted to say thanks for having me on today. Great show. Awesome having Hargeet to jump in with us.
Yeah.
He's pretty amazing and always great. There's a lot of great people in chat. A lot of great discussion. A really good balanced discussion today, and I enjoyed that as well too. Reading at people were pretty mindful and pretty passionate, like you were, throwing the salt around as it were. But it was all in fun. But yeah, so our show, I just dropped a link in the chat. If you get a chance to go to a YouTube channel and subscribe, it'd be greatly appreciated. We've broken over the 700 mark, around 717, on our way to 1,000. But we can't do it without you. So we appreciate everything you guys do for us, and obviously got some great stuff coming up. I've got one of the Iron Lords is going to be up on Monday, and then I have Post Up going to be the next week coming up, an interview for Outbreak Gamers.
Nice.
And so yeah, it's looking forward to that. And yes, we will have a show this Sunday, Easter Sunday. We are going to do a show in Retri, so come join us. It'll be fun.
Yes, looking forward to it, brother, and of course, looking forward to those one-on-ones. You're gonna be sitting down with Sovereign from the Iron Lords, as well as Post Up. 2 really, really solid interviews with a significant amount of knowledge between both of those gamers. So looking definitely forward to that. Let's bring in Dreadpool, and I'm going to put him up on the screen so you can just check out his stuff right here. There it is. Dreadpool, folks, you can find him at linktree.com/Dreadpool, youtube.com/Dreadpool, Twitter @Dreadpool, TikTok @Dreadpool, and hover at .gg @Dreadpool. You can also find him on Wilmy Hood's Gaming Beyond the Box on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. and then back here Friday morning on Breakfast with Boom. Where can people help you continue your growth there, Dreadpool, on YouTube? And where can people reach out to you on social media?
Yes, the easiest place would be Twitter, Dreadpool, and the O's are actually zeros there. Again, thank you all for everything. I'm working on content with the MegaCon that I'm pushing out. There was a haunted house, and I was the only YouTuber, I guess you would say, content creator that was allowed to record in there. But the problem was, I guess somebody went out there after me because once they let me do it, they let somebody else do it too. And so I got to reach out to them, and because I had certain parameters that I was instructed to be allowed to do, and this person here did not follow those parameters. So I'm wondering if they just opened it up. But yeah, there's really cool stuff that I have out that's coming out. Husk is also working on getting those videos out there to help me double up and push a lot of that content out. You know, we want to make sure that you guys enjoy MegaCon from our eyes. And again, I got to thank Harlow from 4GQ TV because he brought me with him as his photographer, I guess you would say. I was his employee for that time, but I also get to keep my content. So definitely, you don't understand how cool it is to meet these people and interact with everybody. That's why I love the community. When I see you guys out and about, and I welcome you guys to, and wherever I go, if I'm outside, to chat with you and interact with you guys. So it's E3 is a big miss for me. I wanted to hang out with Boom and everybody else that was going to go, and it just sucks that it happened that way, but we'll figure out a different way. But again, thank you all for showing up. Let's get Web Dave to his numbers, and Fuzzy, he's working on it too. So we got to get both of these guys up there. They very passionate with what they do and great guys. So definitely we got to support them. And again, we got to thank Boom for bringing us all here together. If it wasn't for Boom, we wouldn't be here.
Well, I wouldn't be here either if it wasn't for you guys. So it's a working hand kind of a tandem. I thank you guys being here every Friday.
Serious. You're the one that brought me on the first time. So again, that's why I say if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. So
I got Fuzzy's link. Fuzzy's link is in the chat now.
Nice. Yes. We got to get Fuzzy up there as well. But thank you for the kind words, Dredd. Enjoy your weekend with your family, of course. And last and no way least, Fuzzy Belvedere, sell your brand, brother. You've been doing a lot of content on your YouTube channel regarding the newly released Forza DLC, which I have to admit is a lot smaller than I would have liked. I'm enjoying it. It's beautiful. It runs great, but after like the 25th, helicopter flying in front of me, telling me to turn left, right, and center, I kind of put it down. I'm a little bored with it. I'm going to be honest with you, but you have found new ways to sell this content to people on your YouTube channel. Tell them where they can do that, and more importantly, reach out to you on social media.
Oh, also want to thank you for having me on. It was awesome being on here with you guys on the road, but man, this was a nice relaxing time to kind of chit chat with the gaming news of the week and stuff. And it was awesome having Hargeet on here for earlier on as well. Man, thank you guys so much for helping me within this community. And guys, you guys keep on doing awesome stuff. And everybody here, don't forget to hit that like button. Hit this subscribe and share button for all these guys' content. I'm still
as well as yours, brother.
Here. But for those that want to hear my rambles or rants or anything gaming related, follow me on Twitter or on YouTube at Fuzzy_Belvedere. Great to be here with you guys. Have an awesome weekend, and I'll follow me. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll see where I'll appear for over this weekend as well. So greatly appreciate everything.
Good. Good stuff, brother. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for making this another successful Breakfast with Boom. Obviously, the chat, you are why we are here. We interacted with you. A lot of new faces. So, of course, if you're new and you're finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. I have posted the link once again down below if you're interested in checking out the merch. Obviously, right now and still for the next week or so, I believe, if you type in the code BoomStick at checkout, you will get 15% off of your total order. And of course, I'm going to close out today's show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day, folks, it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.